Let's go to our regular Monday panel, Kerry Chikarovski and Bruce Hawker. Kerry, a precarious moment for the United States and that democracy.
It's an absolutely terrible moment, Kieran. I mean, I can't imagine how anybody in the States is going to actually deal with this in terms of, whether you're on the red side or on the blue side, they're all going to go, this is the most shocking thing that we've seen happen in almost 60 years. So it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. The interesting thing for me, though, is the reactions around the political parties. So clearly the Republicans are thinking that this is going to help them. The Democrats are thinking that this is going to actually be a soul-destroying moment for them for a couple of reasons. One, because they won't be able to actually launch any attacks on Mr. Trump anymore. But more importantly, I think from all those people who wanted to see the president step down, he's not going to go anywhere now. He's actually going to stay where he is, and that's because he doesn't want to be seen to be running away from a fight. So I think for all those Democrats who are calling for him to resign, that must have been their worst nightmare on what happened with Mr. Trump.
And it could have been so much worse, Bruce, in terms of the implications for the United States if Trump was killed. It was just millimetres away from dying, from that assassination being a successful attempt. And you can only imagine how chaotic, how disastrous that would have been.
Well, you would have seen American streets explode into violence, as we've seen in the past. We saw that in 1968 after the assassination of Martin Luther King and then of Robert Kennedy. This is what happens in America. It's the great tragedy of that country, violence. I mean, it's a bountiful country, the wealthiest nation in the history of mankind, and yet they seem intent on turning their nation into a war zone. It's just incredible, and it's not new. There's nothing new about what happened yesterday. We've seen it time and time again in America. It's the great, sad and tragic story of that great country, that it could resort to violence so quickly and so easily. And we're seeing the rhetoric now, particularly from the elements in the Republican side, being ramped up to make sure that an advantage, a political advantage, is driven home out of this terrible event where a man was nearly assassinated and another man was murdered.
The political advantage, Kerry, seems a very clear one. I've had some on the program today saying, no, don't go too early and declare that Trump's going to win. Others saying, yes, he will win. Either way, that image of him, blood-splattered face, will be an iconic one, with his fist aloft and triumphant.
It will absolutely be iconic, but more importantly, what it will do is, it's certainly in terms of his base, it will confirm that he is a man with great power and great sense of where he is, because the fact that he was able to do that, the fact that he was able to turn around and raise his arm that way and say to his supporters, fight, 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 reinforces the view amongst, particularly, as I said, his base, that he's a man of action, that he's a man in control, that he's a man who is not frightened to take on whatever is thrown at him. So that will be a huge, huge advantage to his base, and maybe to even some of those who were wavering about him, because it is such a strong image. The problem for the Democrats is that they can't stop that image from being spread around the world. It is now in everybody, as you say, everybody's seen it. Everybody is actually saying, even those who don't like Trump, oh my God, imagine having the presence of mind that he actually says, no, we're actually going to continue to fight. So I don't know how the Democrats counter that. I don't think they can do that with a president who is particularly frail. I don't think that's going to, there's nothing they can do to counter that image of Trump being the strong man.
Yeah, and as a political strategist, Bruce, you look at that image, someone who's been around Australian, US politics as much as you have, that is a powerful image that we're talking about, albeit one that the Secret Service would have been annoyed because they were trying to keep him down and get him out of the place, and he was launching up and trying to speak to his people.
It does show his political instincts are really honed, and that's always been something that we know about Donald Trump. He can appeal to his base every time. He understands them well, and he understands what's expected of him. And I think that was just a reflexive response by him in the moment. I don't think it was something he would have thought about at all. It's just the way he is. But of course, that's just going to continue to exacerbate the problem that is modern America. Whether Trump wins the election or Biden wins it or some other Democratic candidate wins, we're still going to see this ghastly division and violence that has penetrated the society for many decades now. And until they actually start looking at those root causes of their dysfunction and their division, we're going to see Donald Trumps keep popping up. And that's going to be to the ultimate, I think, detriment of the American people, because it is a nation divided. Some people say it's in a state of civil war already. It's just that it's not playing out in the sort of violence that we saw in the 1860s. So this is the great tragedy of this country, that it allows itself to go down this path. It allows guns to be in plentiful supply. It allows violent discourse to be part and parcel of their daily affairs. And so that's possibly why we're going to see Donald Trump prevail in the coming months. And I frankly, I don't see anything particularly great about that at all. I think quite the opposite. For all that talk about making the discourse more civilised, it's not going to happen. It's just going to keep ramping up.
The Republican convention over the next few days, we'll talk to you both about that as it wraps up over the next week. Thank you both, Bruce and Kerry. Appreciate it.